The top layer of the Earth's surface is soil, which is largely made up of weathered rock. It's made up of minerals, humus, decomposed organic debris, and helpful living things like worms in various proportions. The smallest rock particles in soil make sticky clay, the medium particles silt, and the coarsest particles form sand. Soil sustains flora and provides a habitat for a range of creatures when there is enough moisture.
Telecommunication is now widely available, and technologies that aid development are popular in many parts of the globe. These devices are also connected by a variety of networks, including computer, telephone, and cable networks. One of many examples of telecommunication is computer communication through the Internet, such as email and instant messaging.
In a genuine republic, the government's will is dependent on the society's will, and the society's will is dependent on the society's reason. For example, James Madison asserted in Federalist 51 that the United States government's scope and structure make it reliant on the will of the people.
In the Roman army, there were two sorts of soldiers, legionaries and auxiliaries. The legionaries were the best soldiers in the army, whereas the auxiliaries were non-Roman people. Legionaries wore a woolen tunic and a linen undershirt. The soldiers stayed cool thanks to the linen, but the wool trapped heat and kept them warm.
Because our graduate admissions office is not centralized, applicants are admitted to individual programmers by each of the university's 6 schools and colleges. Visit the individual school websites for information on specific programmer degrees, graduate applications, graduate admission standards and procedures, graduate scholarships, and the status of your application.
Of course, Australians communicate in English. However, many tourists and even some locals associate Australian English only tangentially with native tongue. Only the initiate understands the arcane meanings of the words and phrases we use in our discourse. Australian slang is to genuinely explain these colorful colloquialisms.
He studied for many years with an expert painter. He studied for many years with an expert painter.
Number the beakers and put them away. Number the beakers and put them away.
The economics faculty building is located on the city road. The economics faculty building is located on the city road.
All filed assignments should have a full list of bibliography. All filed assignments should have a full list of bibliography.
You can pay by cash or using a credit card. You can pay by cash or using a credit card.
The library is located on the north side of the campus. The library is located on the north side of the campus.
I hope I can take early retirement before I'm 60. I hope I can take early retirement before I'm 60.
My favorite sports are soccer, tennis and basketball. My favorite sports are soccer, tennis and basketball.
Knives and forks should be placed next to the spoon on the edge of the table. Knives and forks should be placed next to the spoon on the edge of the table.
The seminar on writing skills has been cancelled. The seminar on writing skills has been cancelled.
Information on pencil length is shown in the graph below. New Jersey, Chicago, and Michigan are among the things. This graph indicates that a pencil's length in Chicago is approximately 46.750. The one from New Jersey is also higher, at about 50.680. This graph demonstrates that New Jersey, with a pencil length of 50.680, has the highest average length. This graph also reveals that Virginia, with a pencil length of about 18.950, has the shortest length. Finally, the longest pencil is found in New Jersey.
The percentage of electricity produced in France by fuel source between 1990 and 2010 is depicted in the graph below. Fuel source from 1990 to 2010 is among the items: coal, nuclear, oil, and other energy data. This graph shows that natural gas had the highest value in 1990 at 28%. The lowest value, on the other hand, is 6%, which is hydropower. This graph shows that nuclear power, which is red, accounts for the largest amount of 2010. This graph also reveals that hydropower, which is orange, accounts for the smallest portion. In conclusion, oil is the most widely used product at the time. The graph below illustrates how a tomato seed can grow into a tomato plant. It demonstrates the procedure in action. Tomato seed, a young plant, a mature plant, a flower, and a fruit are the stages. This graph shows that the tomato seed, which is inside a tomato fruit that has been sliced in half, is the initial stage. The second stage, according to this graph, is to develop into a young, green tomato plant. This graph shows that the third phase is a fully developed tomato plant with green leaves rooted in brown soil, and the fourth step is a flower. The cycle ends when a red fruit emerges from the bloom, and it then repeats itself. This graph is really informative. To sum it up,
The graph below depicts the status of women in the labor force. Amount, duration, and marital status are among the items. This graph demonstrates that in 1920, the value of being married was approximately 10%. This graph demonstrates that in 1910, the value of being single was higher than it is today, at about 60%. This graph demonstrates that in 1990, the highest percentage of people were not married, which is over 80%. On this graph, you can also observe that in 1900, the value of being married was at its lowest, approximately 5%. This graph is really informative. To sum it up,
The monkeys and typewriters picture is one that is frequently used. Okay, the idea is basically that if you give chance enough time, roughly 600 million years, you will eventually create life. Don't worry about it, certainly, it's bizarre and amazing. But if you give matter enough time, roughly 600 million years, on Earth, you will eventually create life. The monkey typing away at the typewriter will probably eventually generate all of Shakespeare's works, so what's the issue? So, there's no problem. No problem exists, right? Simply wait long enough, and you'll discover. The monkey may someday succeed in giving you the full works of Shakespeare, but it will take him 600 million years, not one keystroke. I therefore made the decision to run the figures. Instead of transcribing the entirety of Shakespeare, I just calculate how long it would take a monkey to press one key each second. To be or not to be, that is the question should be typed. Right? How long will it take, on average, for my monkey friends to press a key per second? I have no idea how you envision it. You might venture a guess. If I do the math, it would take 12.6 trillion years to type just the words to be or not to be as the question. A DNA strand holds as much information as the Britannica Encyclopedia. Would it be less than 600 million years or more than 600 million years? Do we mean to imply that anything of that complexity appears haphazardly and without purpose in less than 600 million years? Again, it's mathematically feasible, but it's so improbable that it ever happened that it makes me go toward the Christian account of God creating life by just saying, "Let that be," and it was.
Childhood brain development occurs in 3 phases, beginning with the primitive brain, also known as the activity brain, moving on to the limbic brain, sometimes known as the feeling brain, and concluding with the neocortex, thought brain. Although connected, each of the 3 served a distinct purpose. The primary activities of the primitive brain include controlling reflexes, controlling motor movements, monitoring bodily functions, and processing sensory data. The limbic brain serves as a mediator between the primitive brain and the cerebral cortex in the processing of emotions. The limbic and primitive brains provide information to the thinking brain, which is the part of the brain that is most objective. He required additional time, though, to process data from the limbic and basic brains. The brain believes that the amalgamation is also a location where experience, memory, emotion, and the capacity for thought give rise to ideas and deeds. The primitive, limbic, and cognitive processes are followed by the brain's nerve myelination in that order. More often than not, neural pathways are employed to increase myelin thickness. The faster the nerve impulses or signals move along the nerves, the thicker the myelin becomes. A developing youngster is thus encouraged to take in information from the environment in accordance with its needs.
What is the job of someone that looks after your teeth and gums? What is the job of someone that looks after your teeth and gums?
How would you describe an animal that no longer exists on the earth? How would you describe an animal that no longer exists on the earth?
If you have a toothache, who will you go to? If you have a toothache, who will you go to?
What is the top surface inside the room? What is the top surface inside the room?
What we call it if trees are cut down in a large area. What we call it if trees are cut down in a large area.
How do we describe the food that is not cooked? How do we describe the food that is not cooked?
If you like our video, kindly subscribe our channel and also press below bell icon. Thank you.